I'm Bee.
And I'm Renske.
We are so grateful that you are here.
Welcome to School of Joy.
Hey, welcome back. This is episode 2 of School of Joy. And today we're going to be talking about being a highly sensitive person, which we both are.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I think we've both had experience of not understanding what it is, and to be a highly sensitive person, and then struggling with being a highly sensitive person, and then learning to embrace being a highly sensitive person.
Yeah, I'm wrapping the gift of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So we're going to talk initially about the definition of being a highly sensitive person, and we thought we'd read out what Google says first, and then we'll share a bit about our different experiences of being highly sensitive.
Yes, yeah, I have it open here on the screen. So what Google has to say. High sensitivity means having a nervous system that processes stimuli more deeply, leading to heightened awareness of subtle environmental details, stronger emotional reactions, greater empathy, and a tendency to get easily overstimulated by sensory or social input, making it a personality trait, not a disorder, characterized by deep processing, emotional reactivity, and overstimulation. How does that resonate to you, Bea?
It's very familiar. Yeah. I mean, for me, being a highly sensitive person has been, for most of my life, a complete burden, to be honest. I had no concept that I was highly sensitive. And then, I can't remember when, but a few years ago, the concept of being highly sensitive came up somewhere, probably on Instagram or something. And I was like, oh, that sounds like me. And how that has played out in my life is experiencing emotion in a really big way. And that's not just the bad emotions, not just feeling sad or it's also joy. Me and my husband always laugh. My experience of life is like this crazy up and down. And then his is so
Steady.
much, so much steadier, like, even with the highs. And sometimes I think he really misses out because I'm like, this is
To
great.
some degree, probably. Yeah.
So for me, really, really, that bit about emotional reactivity is very, very familiar. I was really taught that being sensitive was a negative thing. There's a lot of shame around being sensitive for me as a child, and it's something that I've had to learn to embrace and love about myself. And there are huge gifts, as we'll come to. But since being more conscious of it, I see the ways in which it plays out. So, for instance, the other day I was on a phone call with a family member who was having a really difficult time. And before we spoke, I knew what they were going to tell me. I kind of figured out that something had not good had happened. When they started telling me, I literally could feel my energy coming out of my body, almost going into their energy. And it was like I was experiencing their emotion.
Like that merging of the fields, right? The merging of your
Yeah.
energy field with the other person. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. So I now understand that I've probably been doing that my whole life,
Yeah.
and having no concept of it.
Very
And I
unconscious. Yeah.
completely, yeah. So what happened at the weekend when that happened was I felt like bursting out crying. And then I was able to catch myself and say, this isn't your energy. And then it was a really different experience. But for me, the emotion side particularly, and feeling drained in big crowds, which I know you're gonna share about. So let's hear about how you have experienced it in the past.
Well, actually, what pops up to me when you were sharing, I was like, oh, even a memory from childhood comes up where I was using it probably more in balance already when I was a child. But then later, as I developed and as I became older, it also felt more like a burden, as in I felt like really overwhelmed with it. But that sort of early experience, what I was thinking when you said, like, oh, I sort of merged and I already knew what was going to be shared, what I was thinking of was, I think I was probably 7 years old or 8. And at that time in school, we had a teacher who did a lot of games where you had to guess number and then you could win something. And he would write the number at the back of the board, and the one who guessed the number right first was then they won something small, not big. And I won a lot. Like I won a lot because I just I don't know what it was, but when he was writing, I just knew I could tap into his energy, literally. On
Amazing.
hindsight, I'm thinking, like, yeah, that's what was happening. Me being highly sensitive, being able to tap into his energy and simply knowing what the number was. And all the kids were like, oh, Renske again. So I guess that was, I guess, also an experience of this thought pattern then or belief that would be created unconsciously by me of, oh, it's not good if I tap into someone else's energy because I will be punished by my peers for it because they don't like if I'm the one knowing everything or saying what I feel is the right answer. So that's, I guess, the first sort of experience that popped up in my mind where I used it for myself to win little things in school. But later it became more an overwhelming thing, more a burden where in big groups, especially without knowing what I was doing, I would be able to feel everyone's energy. And the only way I could then experience it was afterwards. Would feel completely exhausted and I would feel very drained. Probably also later in life, when I was 25, I had a burnout. And when I was thinking about the high sensitivity, I was like, oh, that probably also has something to do with it being overstimulated easily. Your nervous system simply burns out at some stage if you just keep overstimulating it. Yeah, in big crowds, but also with friends, being able to just know what's going on for them. And as you say, like you almost like become them, you feel their emotion. Like I remember one time we were with a friend group and I could just feel that one of my friends was so extremely sad and none of the other people noticed. And all of a sudden I felt just like I need to walk over to her and hold her. So I walked over to the other side of the table and just gave her a big hug and she started bursting into tears and she was like, how did you know? It's like, I don't know. I just really felt that you needed a hug. So I guess being a sensitive highly sensitive person, also you have that ability to to feel into what someone else is feeling. But of course, if you do that for many people, then that becomes way too overwhelming if you cannot manage that properly, if you cannot balance that properly. So at the time, I didn't know that I was highly sensitive. I mean, I kind of knew that I was the odd one out, as I said before we started recording. I felt like the
Yeah.
odd one out because other people wouldn't be so overwhelmed easily or they wouldn't know what was going on. I remember as well when I was studying communications, we had these tests where you would get answers around your personality traits and stuff. And I scored so high on empathy that the teachers were also like, are you doing, the right studies?
Mhm.
You should be doing more social kind of thing. So I guess those kind of things pointed out that I've been highly sensitive my whole life, of course. But it wasn't until I started doing spiritual work later in my life, which now has been probably 6 to 7 years ago, that I acknowledged it as such, that I knew that it was being highly sensitive and that if I learned, how to manage it and how to balance and harmonize that within myself, that it then would become a gift instead of being overwhelmed by the gift. I can use it consciously. And that's where now, fast forward, I use that gift to do energy healing and stuff like that, to teach the Master's Way courses that I do. So that's a short version of my journey in that. But definitely before I knew I was highly sensitive, I would feel so overwhelmed. And what I really recognize as well is those highs and lows in emotions, feeling extremely sad or feeling extremely joyful instead of having a bit more of a steady flow in that. And I think at the moment, being 7 years into learning to harmonize and balance it, I feel more certain steadiness where I still have moments where I allow myself to feel deeply, but it doesn't last that long. And it doesn't, I mean, I still really enjoy that. I also feel the positive emotions very deeply.
Mm,
Like I can feel like so intensely grateful to like in
mm,
every cell of my being, I then feel
mhm.
gratitude or I feel
Yeah.
joy. Like, or if I see someone, flourish or teaching the Master's Way, for example, and I see students, going through transformation and coming out the other side and then sharing their insights. I feel that also in my being, and I'm so grateful for that I'm able to then tap into their energy. But for example, when they're at a low point, I'm then not allowing myself anymore because I learned how to balance it, that I feel overwhelmed by their sadness or feel overwhelmed by their grief or anger or judgment. Then I can listen neutrally. And that's a big difference, to be able to keep it a bit more steady and choosing when to have those accelerations of emotions consciously. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that experience of tapping into people's energy is a really familiar one. I was in a group setting a couple of nights ago, and we were all sat in a circle, and certain people in that group are really dominating the conversation,
Mm.
and they were just oblivious to how everyone else was feeling. And I'm there as a highly sensitive person going, she's really tired by this. She's really bored. It's so alien to me for those other people to sit there and be
Mm.
oblivious to how everyone else is feeling. One thing that happened to me earlier this year actually was that my poor brother ended up in hospital with severe abdominal pain 2 nights in the same week.
Mm.
And both nights, I mean, the first night especially, because I had no idea what was going on, I had this terrible abdominal pain. And I now understand that that was me tapping into his energy. And then the next day when he phoned to say, I was like, oh, I was feeling that too, not in the same way. Um, but yeah, and I think the other thing for me, for being highly sensitive, just as you were speaking then, I was thinking physical sensory stuff can
Mm.
really overwhelm me as well. So if I get too hot, I can feel really overwhelmed by that. If I
Yeah.
get too cold, certain clothes, I can't really wear jeans because I just find that they completely overstimulate me.
Perfume
Um,
is a big one for me. It's like,
yeah,
it's way too
perfume.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can smell people walking down the street.
Or light, when you go out shopping and like the lights, like I can't go shopping for very long because the lights and all the smells, it's just a lot. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, noise for me. We're really lucky that we've got quite a peaceful household, but
Mm.
too much noise. I'm a wedding photographer, and sometimes at weddings there's such a lot of people in one room, and I've got some loops which cancel out the noise, and I
Oh,
put
yeah.
them in, and I can feel my whole body go,
Yeah.
because I've been holding all that energy.
Mm.
And I mean, my husband always laughs because when we get into bed, he just gets into bed and goes to sleep. Well, I have to wriggle because every tiny little crease in my pajamas or on the bedsheet, everything has to be absolutely perfect for me to be able to switch off my highly sensitive brain.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Interesting. Right. Yeah.
So I guess it would be really great to bring some hope to anyone that this resonates with, because for me, finding out that being high sensitive was a thing was really helpful. And then being able to validate my experience was super helpful. But one of the things that I find talking to you, Venska, is that you bring me a lot of hope that I can manage it better
Mm,
and really use it as a gift. And I think I'm already tapping into that. But yeah, I would love to know how that really looks for you.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of see it like a mastery, really. If I look at my soul's purpose, and then I briefly touch the thing that is called a soul chart. We won't go into that right now, but the the purpose of my soul's mastering harmony and balance. And that's really with the highly sensitivity, what we're asked to do is to learn to master our energy so that we feel more balanced and harmonized. And then if we are more harmonized and balanced within ourselves, then we stay centered when everything around us might be chaotic and maybe lots of drama. I feel that being able to keep myself centered was the skill that I needed to not feel so overstimulated anymore. So at the end of the day, I now do feel that I can go to sleep easily, where what you just described was also me many years back, like struggling. And even as a child, I remember I was always the one of out of three siblings going downstairs very late in the evening and saying, I can't sleep, mom,
Mm,
like,
yeah.
and then mum would say, like, yeah, just go up to bed, close your eyes and rest. I was like, yeah, but my thoughts, they go crazy. I just wouldn't be able to settle so easily. Um, so a beacon of hope, I guess. What I've learned, it really started shifting when I stepped into the self mastery course, the spiritual deep work, where I learned, first of all, that I embraced even more that we are energetic beings. As human beings, because we're so focused still on the physical, on the physicality of us, the spiritual course really helped me understand that we are so much more than just the physical part of us. That first understanding was a really important step in that journey of being able to transform the high sensitivity into gift gifts, actually. And then from that understanding, I learned through those courses to clear my energy field. And another way of saying that probably is clearing the filters of how we perceive life. So it's like our energy field consists of certain energy bodies. You can also probably, when you're listening, you're more familiar maybe with an auric field. I think that's a term that is maybe a bit more common. And that auric field is basically a filter system that we receive energy through. So, energy from others, energy from around us, places. And the best way to give an example is you would feel completely different walking into forest compared to walking into, a shopping mall. It's different
Yeah.
energy that you receive through your auric field. Yet you can learn how to still feel centered in that shopping mall, or in that big group that you're part of. And I'm trying to think of how I explain that in basic, simple words. Um, when the high sensitivity is still feeling like a burden or an overwhelm, the filters of your auric field are still blocked. They are blocked and clogged up with beliefs that are limiting, thought patterns that are limiting, expectations and attachment. It's a programming that we've created unconsciously that clogs up that auric field, and that causes us to easily, go from left to right, front to center, being pulled out of our center. And the moment I learned how to clear what is limiting me in that auric field, when a trigger comes up in my life or when I do feel overwhelmed with energy around me, how I can clear that then over time, as I start clearing sort of the basement more and more, I felt that I was able to hold myself a lot better. Where now, as I told you before we started recording, I've had an experience recently, or it's already like 2 years ago actually, but we went to Disneyland, which is so much stimulation with the lights and all the people. And then we also went there with our family-in-law, which can, for a lot of people, I guess, also be like a lot of overstimulation.
Yeah, sounds like hell for a highly sensitive person.
But, it's I was amazed, and so that was actually for me like this point where I was like, wow, this is really showing me all the work I've done, all the clearing out the basement that I've been doing. And if I use the tools in self mastery, so I would clear my auric field, clear my chakras. Maybe some of you listening are familiar with chakras as well. Daily in that period when we were at Disneyland, I would really center myself in the morning and in the evening, clear out anything that I was maybe holding on to from other people. And I was able to feel steady and centered throughout that time there, which was 3 to 4 days. And that was a point where I was like, wow, this is really showing the growth that I've made in mastering my energy more and more. And of course, there are still moments where it gets me, but less and less. I think at the moment I'm sort of learning a self mastery 3.0 with Lily, my daughter
Mm.
that came into the world, and my two beautiful stepdaughters, and our dog, and our whole family. That we created together with my husband is like a new level of self mastery again, of not um, of learning to stay centered in the chaos of a big family.
Because Lily
Um,
is 4 months now?
almost five
Almost
months. Yeah,
5 months. She's still so little.
so little.
It's been really interesting watching you on that journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and she needs so much care, and I'm giving so much energy out. And I can totally understand. I said it the other day actually to JP, my husband. Wow, I can't imagine having to have this experience without all the tools and all the skills that I've learned in the past 7 years. I can completely understand why a lot of new mums, or not even new, and mums in general, kept completely overwhelmed with the care of even one child or multiple children.
Mm.
Um,
It's such a lot. Like you're
it
needed
is.
so much, and it's
Yeah,
so and I think as high sensitive people, we really need our space.
yeah,
And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot.
'Cause how is that for you? Maybe you can touch on that briefly as well, like, motherhood and high
Mm.
sensitivity?
It's definitely a lot better now. I can see that things are changing. Yeah, I think in those early days, the intensity of it was super overwhelming.
Mm,
Yeah, just being needed and not having space and not being able to go to the toilet on your own,
mm,
or have a shower or yeah. And I think my daughter's absolutely highly sensitive as well. And the sound of crying, there's such a huge difference. Even now, I mean, my daughter's nearly 5. The difference between how I experience her crying compared to my husband, it's like a physical
reaction, yeah.
sensation, yeah,
Mm,
reaction to it. It feels so uncomfortable for me. And he's just never experienced it that way. He's like my marker for he's like more and I'm like crazy high sensitive person. I'm almost like, oh, he's so different for you. But it's yeah, really nice to have that kind of comparison. But yeah, I definitely feel the work with the master's weight, things are easing for sure. And I really want to parent her in a way that I really embrace her high sensitivity.
mm,
And it is such a gift. I mean, my goodness, ever since she was tiny, she's been so empathetic towards others. I mean, the other night, she's been sleeping in our room because we've been decorating her bedroom.
mm.
And that day we'd bought the Christmas tree, and the guy that we'd bought it from said, "Oh, it'll be quite thirsty. Make sure it's got a lot of water when you first get it home." And that night she woke up in the middle of the night, and from her little bed on the floor, she said, "Has the Christmas tree got enough enough water?
Yeah,
I'm worried about the Christmas tree." And I thought, like, you're 4. Why are you worrying
yeah.
about this? But she's just so deeply empathetic, and it's such a beautiful thing. When she was a tiny baby, like Lily's age, if you played emotional music, her little bottom lip would start wobbling because it just really affected her. I mean, I was one of 4, and I'm fairly sure my mum must have been highly sensitive too, but I don't know. I mean, I just know I couldn't cope with four children and all the noise and the mess that brings. I would just find it so much. Yeah.
I guess also it's only recently within our generation that things start to shift around that, I guess. For our parents and the parents of our parent, it must have been so different, that experience. And then I can imagine that would sort of there would be a lot more suppressing of that,
Mhm.
which then,
Yeah.
of course, causes again those filters to be clogged up and to be overwhelmed and therefore lash out a lot more. Or yeah, I can empathize probably to certain choices then made in the generations before us, and I feel that's always in divine timing that that is shifting, and I think we are sort of the first generation where there's a bigger shift happening and in many people becoming aware of their gift as a highly sensitive person. I mean, look at all the labels also around ADHD and stuff like that. That's basically like an overstimulated nervous system as well. Yeah.
I
I
mean, that is exploding, isn't it?
Yeah, it
I have
is. So
so
many
many
people.
friends
Yeah.
going through that process at the moment of being diagnosed. And interestingly, yeah, I read Gabor Mate's book about ADHD over the
Mm,
summer. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds like me. And
mm.
so I didn't say anything to Tom, my husband, and I said, oh, could you read this book? And he read it. Just on an audiobook when he was at work, and he came home and he's like, "That book's interesting, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, why do you find it interesting?" He's like, "Well, it sounds like you." Yeah, and I mean, I don't feel the need to necessarily go and get a diagnosis or anything, but it's been really helpful to for us both to have read that book and understand it better, and it's been quite validating. A lot of things I do make a lot more sense to him now. I think this is just the way Bee's brain works. It's not that she's
Mm,
trying to be late all the time. But I think, speaking to you and continuing with this work and seeing the change, I'm definitely not where you're at with it, but I feel a sense of optimism that I was put here in this world as a highly sensitive soul, and
mm.
that I can really use it as a gift. Like you said, it's just a mastery that I'm currently
Yeah.
learning and probably will continue to learn for the rest of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I see it as well, the more you start to master that, the more you come home to your authentic self. You can feel like you can express yourself so much more authentically without having all these extra limiting thoughts around that. And personally feel so much more peace around that. Yeah, that I can't, as I said, I can't imagine life without that. So yeah, I guess for if you're listening and you recognize yourself in that, or you've been diagnosed with ADHD later in life. I think I would tick a lot of boxes there actually. I just don't feel the need anymore to get that label as such. But I can also understand that for many people it gives a lot of acknowledgement, and recognition to how they've been feeling their whole life.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, just with the label, I feel that's not where it stops because nowadays you have the option to also medicate for it. But I feel that if you're listening and you're feeling that call to go deeper than that,
Hmm.
so the surface level of the label, highly sensitive, ADHD, however you want to call it, that's when you start to unwrap the gift. And that's where you start to live more authentically. And I know there's so many people out there with such amazing gifts that are still to be unwrapped. And this episode is really a first highlight of that it's not a burden, but that it is a gift to be unwrapped. And that it's so important that we do, because it's not just for us personally, but eventually, if you unwrap your gift, you're able to touch other people positively in that regards as well. And it's like a ripple effect going out to humanity.
Yeah, I think we both felt it was so important to bring this topic up really early, which is why it's a second episode, because I think probably everyone, certainly in my cohort of the course, is highly sensitive.
Mm, yeah.
I think probably there has been, or certainly my experience was that I felt a lot of shame around being so sensitive, but it is such a gift. Yeah, I'll share something in my Joy Spark which relates to this hugely. Actually, I think being in someone's presence who is in mastery of their high
Mm,
sensitivity feels so wonderful when you're experiencing something that you're perhaps struggling with. You know, there's been times when you have shown up for not just me, but the other people on our course, and you can feel how grounded you are. It's just a really beautiful experience to be on the receiving end of that as
mm,
well. And I know for me, when my friends or my family experience suffering, very often I'm one of the people that they go to first,
mm,
because I'm able to be so empathetic towards
yeah.
them. And it is a gift, and sometimes it doesn't always feel that way. But yeah, I'm really, if this resonates with you, we just really want you to hear. Uh,
There's hope. Yeah. There's
yeah,
hope. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And reach out to us as well. If you don't know where to start, when you're listening and you don't know where to start, simply send us a message on Instagram, via email. We can put that all in the notes below this episode as well, because the first big step is to reach out for support. Because you don't have to go through this alone. It doesn't have to be a burden, but you need to be able to make the choice to receive support, I guess. That's the first thing as well. Yeah. Joy
yeah.
Sparks, you mentioned it
Okay.
already briefly. Maybe because it's a second episode, can you maybe remind us of what a Joy Spark is?
Yeah, so Joy Spark is something that we created when we were thinking about what the podcast was going to be, and it's those moments of usually just everyday little moments in our life where we feel such a deep sense of being connected and deep sense of joy and peace as well. Yeah, so shall I go first,
Yeah,
because
go for it.
I
Yeah.
have one that's super relevant. So
Mm.
last night, actually, there's been some aspects coming up for me this week, and I joined on a call with one of my Master's Way buddies, and they were just able to hold so much space for me to share what I was experiencing without any judgment at all. It was just, this is a safe space to speak. And then they said to me, I can feel, like, they're high sensitive too, and I can feel where you're holding this in your body, aren't you? And I was like, oh yeah, I can feel it too, and I can feel it. And then she said to me, why don't we just sit quietly in meditation and send this aspect love?
Mm.
And so that's what we did. And I don't know how long we sat, 5-10 minutes. So we just both sent this aspect love, and I could feel this softening in my body. And she said that she could feel it too, because she's got aspects as well that my aspect was reminding her of. And I think, would a non-highly sensitive person be able to hold me in that safe space in the way she's done obviously a huge amount of work with the self-mastery stuff too? And it just felt really powerful, and really felt really seen and held, and deeply connected to her and the work that we're doing and the power of it.
Mm. Beautiful. Think maybe briefly to add, when we talk buddies or when we talk aspects, maybe people listening are like, what is be talking about?
Yeah.
A buddy is someone like a fellow student in the self-mastery course, the Master's Way. For the whole year, you connected and you can reach out to each other to support each other on this journey. And that's one of the big things that are so important in this course, that you feel supported, that you're not alone on this journey of transforming that burden, as we perceive it in the beginning, into a gift. And aspects, we might have even an episode on that. Aspects are parts of ourselves, really. And you can see them as when you're being triggered. That's when an aspect steps forward. A part of yourself is being triggered in that moment. So when many aspects step forward, we feel sort of overwhelmed with many triggers. I guess that's how I would explain it. I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that, but
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah, it's just that it's a part of us, isn't it? That,
yeah,
I mean, perhaps some of our listeners will have done internal family systems,
yeah,
parts work, similar to that, a part of ourselves that isn't really aligned in our highest interest or being triggered is
it's how they show up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right. I guess my Joyce pack I actually sent to you yesterday. I sent a picture, which was beautiful. But I have to say, just before that moment, I was quite overwhelmed yesterday. I even said to JP, my husband, like, I feel my nervous system is very thin at the moment. And I also feel that the transition into motherhood and still my body healing, from the birth and the pregnancy. Hormones are going all over the show. And even though in the last months since Lily is born, I feel an overall sense of centeredness and calm and peace. There are moments, of course, that I have as well where I feel very thin. And yesterday was one of those moments in the afternoon when I came home and one of the girls is sick at the moment. Yeah, just very chaotic. And I sort of froze. That's maybe also a trait for a highly sensitive person. When it gets overwhelming, we can also freeze. I couldn't do anything anymore. There wasn't any flow in making dinner and all of that. Everything felt a bit like I had to sort of push through it.
Yeah.
But now I've learned to then speak up and say how I feel and being able to express how I feel. And already that creates a shift. And I guess the big difference is as well that I've learned to receive support. So I speak up to JP and then, we work as a team now where I was then able to shift my energy. I only needed a bit of a moment on the couch, really, to take a breath. And then I guess later in the evening, that was the picture that I sent you. We were reading a Christmas book all together. The oldest one was reading, and then the middle one was sitting next to me. And Lily, the youngest, she was sitting on my lap, and she was like, with like big eyes, she was like listening to her big sister and just observing that whole situation. I was, yeah, just bursting from joy. And then everything was I was calm again. But I think the two big things that helped me with that was, first of all, to acknowledge how I felt, and second of all, to ask for support. Yeah.
I think it's such a relatable scene, what you described. And I think also for me, it's taken me quite a long time to even acknowledge that I'm feeling that in the first place for myself. And then let alone communicating it. And it's such a powerful thing to be able to do. It's such a gift to bring our
Yeah.
family. Actually, this is how I'm feeling right now. And then everyone understands. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's a journey.
beautiful. Yeah, it is a journey, but it's a beautiful one. It's a beautiful one when you reach out for that support. Yeah.
Before we close, we're going to take a moment for a short grounding and connection together. If this conversation resonated, we'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it right now. You can follow us on Instagram at School of Joy Podcast, and subscribing really helps this space grow. If you notice your own joy spark this week, or have any other reflections you'd like to share, comment below or share it with us on Instagram. We love hearing from you. Thanks again for listening.
All right.
Let's do
We're
it.
going to invite you listening to breathe with us just for a minute to ground and anchor our energy. Let us close our eyes if you're able to. Take a deep breath in through the nose and breathing out slowly. And let us do that a couple more times, breathing in deeply and breathing out slowly. And with every in breath, let us welcome in the frequency of gratitude. And breathing out and sending that all around us, filling our auric field with this gratitude.